In this video, we're going to put a new track in the Polaris Widetrack. It's a 91, 92, can't remember exactly. Doesn't matter a whole lot. They didn't change a whole lot in the time frame that they did these. We're changing the track because the drive lugs itself inside the track are actually worn down, and when you hit the brakes, it actually will ratchet and skip on the lugs. And it looks like somebody has actually replaced the drivers already at some point, probably because they were wore out. It's got a lot of miles on it. So we're going to be doing that. Saying it has a lot of miles on it. You can see it's got over 8,000, getting close to 9, 8,716. So a lot of miles. Seems to be the original track. That's probably why it's, you know, worn the way it is. It's a little hard to see on the camera. That actually looks fairly well, but on this side, I'm trying to hold the light and do the camera here. On this side, the lug is the side that gets pressed against for when you hit the brake or if you're in reverse. And you can actually see barely at the top corner there is rounded off from it slipping up over. And then you can see on the other side how it's cupped in from the driver going on it. Plus you can see all nice little cracks in there. I tried tightening it to see if it'd help. Haven't actually really tested it since I did that, but when I tightened it, it had all those cracks starting to open up. That's a real good one there. So I figured it's probably time for a new track. This is a 156 by 20 by half an inch lug on it. Just these tiny little lugs. Might have been 3/4, somewhere around there. What I got to go in it is actually supposed to be for skidoos. So I'm gonna have to change the drivers, which we'll talk about that in a minute. It's a 154 by 20 by 1.8 lug, and it's a 2.86 drive pitch instead of the 2.52 that's in it. So that ought to be a lot better for my uses. Not a whole lot of hard packed trails going out in that area. I mean, sometimes the trails pack down decent, but most time it's not, so that'll do a lot better. The one that's on there, I mean, on flat ground it was great, even out in powder and stuff, but you'd just get on the slightest hill and the back would just start sinking in and you couldn't get up it, except if you're trying to haul stuff. When I first started looking for a wide track, I really wanted to get a fan cooled because I didn't want liquid cooling to have to worry about it overheating on a trail, and you know, if you're hauling a load you can't hit the powder on the side to cool it off. But they weren't really popping up, and then especially in the price range I was looking for, and this came up. It's a 500 liquid. It's old Fuji motors. Work good, lasts a long time. I mean, this one's got over 8,000 miles on it. Still runs like a champ. But the reason I didn't worry about overheating with this one is these older Polarises like this, even some of the Indy trails and not necessarily the wide tracks. I mean, the first sled I had actually had these same things. Has heat exchangers right here under the footwell. So if you're going down a hard packed trail or something and hauling and it starts getting warm, you can just grab some snow and throw it right here and it keeps it cool. Snow all melts away, shovel some more on there, and you're good to go. The track that's on here is a 2.5 5/2 pitch, 9-tooth driver, just like this one. And for clearance of the larger paddles, and because I want to gear it down anyways, ideally, if I ever have to actually do work on the transmission on this, I'm going to try and gear it down to where high range is like low range, and then low range would be really low, because I pretty much never put it in a high. I mean, it'll do 40 in low, so I mean, it's a utility sled. I don't need it to go any faster than that for my uses. So if I ever get in transmission, I want to try and gear that down. But for now, to help gear it down and clearance for the track, I needed to go to at least 8-tooth drivers in a 2.52 pitch to fit that size paddle. But since only want wide tracks that have paddles more than 1.25 inches or skidoo, I got 2.86 pitch drivers, and it's a 7-tooth, but as you can see, a 7-tooth 2.86 is pretty much the same diameter as the 8-tooth 2.52. Release our track tension. This one actually has a axle up in here for the track to run over. Take that out. Another one of those up here. Back out. Got some weight to it. That's the easy part. Hard part is actually getting us out of the track. The hole's a little messed up. Turns out wide tracks are actually really easy. You just undo the bearing down there like you would on pretty much any sled around this year. And instead of having to take the chain case apart and the chain off and sprocket off the end of the shaft, they've just got a little extension coupler that goes onto that right there. This little guy right here slides on the end, so you take that bearing out, you slide the shaft that way, it comes off, and then it comes out. I've got the old drivers pressed off and the new ones on. The old one actually had 2 more drivers on it, but this one, well, when I took it out, was already loose, wasn't doing anything because it was sitting all up on this round collar, because you can kind of see the line of where it's supposed to be. So it seems pointless to put one there if it's, because it's just going to end up doing the same thing the last one did. And then if I'm not putting one over there, I don't see the point in putting one over here where this one was. I'm a little worried about the teeth on this. Are a little worn. They're not horrible. So I guess if they wear out, I'll have other drivers I can press on, and then maybe I'll press these two if I have issues. But I don't think I'm going to, because I've used smaller drivers, 7-tooth drivers that are 2.52, which are quite a bit smaller than this, which are known to slip because they're so small. And even with just 2 of them on a higher powered engine, I never had any issues, so I think this ought to be just fine. So now we're just gonna slide it in there. I'm not gonna do any video that, because it's just gonna be me laying under it, grunting and swearing most likely, and you won't be able to see a whole lot. Old mount hole was ovaled out, so again, like most older sleds these years, there's that steel plate there to kind of beef it up, make the tunnel stronger where it goes in at. Oh, there's a nice little crack there too, but I just stop drilled it, shot a couple new rivets in the cooler because they were missing. But anyways, it's got all the holes in it already, so I just took a drill and drilled out the next one lower down, which will make the ski pressure a little lighter, but it hasn't been an issue so far, so we'll see how it goes. If I don't like it, I can always move it up, but that way it's not a oblong hole anymore. Well, it's got the track in. Could have saved a lot of hassle if I just would have gotten the 1.5 instead of the 1.8, but it's in there. And trim a little bit off. So, you look up in there, I didn't account for when I was sizing it. It would have fit without it, but you got the rails running down through the top. And yeah, without those there would have been plenty of clearance. I mean, you can see on the side one, plenty of clearance. Except for where that's at. So, I took the center paddles and trim them down. They actually, if you look at this one, you can see there's kind of 3 little notches on it almost. So I just cut all the way down at the lowest one, the center one. And then on these other ones that stuck in a little farther, I just cut the corners off. And now it all works just fine. I did end up moving that down as well. It's those idler wheels right there, which with it up in the other holes, it was pushing it up against the top. I mean, it is a 154 instead of a 156, but there's the stretching as well, and you can see the anti-seize on the bolt from where it was at with the other track, and that track wasn't even this tight, so it was run all the way out to the end of its adjustment and couldn't get it this tight.